ad from the Weed Man, the big lawn care franchise. Of course, they work right across the country. This is one of their ads from Ontario. This came out right around the time of the Ontario ban in 2009. I don't know if you can see it in the back, but it says, "Weed Man, trust the professionals. We want your business. The best pesticide-free alternatives for your lawn." And at the bottom it says, "We've gone green to help make your lawn greener." So this is an example of the industry doing exactly what we would hope. They embraced the new legislation. Nutrilon, which was one of the big companies in Ontario, said, and this is right from their press release, that we will thrive in this new market, meaning after the ban came in. Weed Man, this is from one of the franchise operators in eastern Ontario, Brockville, near Kingston, Ontario, and the Weed Man out there said, and I quote, "We have no issues at all. We've completely switched to organic products." So these are the mainstream lawn care suppliers who in Ontario have made the switch. We're delighted they're doing it, and they haven't had problems making that transition. And I dare say it will be the same thing here in Newfoundland and Labrador. Your industry will switch, and they'll be offering the public a superior product because you can play on the lawn and the kids can roll on it and the dog can walk on it right after the treatment is put down. They'll be offering a better product, and their industry will thrive. The other thing that's really good, and this is again why we say that these bans are a win-win situation, it's also really good for employment. Again, the Weed Man out in Brockville, eastern Ontario, said, and this is right from the newspaper out there, rather than cutting back on staff, the Weed Man franchise owner expects to hire more people this year, meaning 2009, because the organic methods are more labor-intensive and require some inspection and removal. So it really, really is win-win. When you go the organic, non-toxic route, you do need to hire some extra people, and that's a shot in the arm for the economy, and we're creating jobs, which is really what I think we want to do in the sector. So win-win-win, human health, the economy, business, and jobs. Then the question is, well, do these things work? I mean, do they really reduce pesticide concentrations? I mean, can you see some change after they come in? Now, this is preliminary. I mean, the Ontario ban was passed in 2008, but the Ontario government had the foresight to do some stream water analysis before the ban and after. So they took some samples. Actually, they got an independent laboratory, to their credit. They didn't do it themselves. They got an independent laboratory to do this work. They looked at water samples in some urban streams before the pesticide ban came in 2008, and then in 2009 after it came in, and they looked at concentrations of 3 common lawn pesticides in urban streams. And what they found was quite a dramatic drop. Better than 80% in the case of a couple of these very common lawn care chemicals, 2,4-D, which I mentioned earlier, dropped by about 86% before and after the ban. In terms of stream concentrations, dicamba, another popular one, 82%, and another chemical, MCPP, by almost 80%, 78%. So some quite dramatic drops in the concentrations of these toxins in urban streams following the ban. So that's some preliminary evidence. I don't want to overplay it. It's just preliminary because it's only been the early days of the ban. But the preliminary evidence in Ontario is very encouraging indeed, that these bans really do reduce these toxic substances in water. And that's a good thing because all of these little streams eventually go into lakes where big numbers of people, at least in Ontario, get their drinking water. So it's a very encouraging early statistic. Popular. So some people say, well, but what do the people on the ground think? I mean, it's all very good for the Cancer Society and the Medical Association, the nurses to say that we need these pesticide bans, but what do people actually say? Well, we commissioned professional pollsters right across the country. Wherever we do these campaigns, we begin typically by commissioning a pollster. We've done this from Edmonton right out to Newfoundland and Labrador. So when we were working in Ontario, we commissioned the pollster Oracle to ask Ontarians what they felt. About 71% supported these. And then laterally, we co-sponsored a poll with the Medical Association here, a CRA Atlantic quarterly poll, and we found numbers in the same region. Almost 7 out of 10, 68% of Newfoundland and Labrador residents support the pesticide ban. The pollster also asked a couple of other questions of Newfoundland and Labrador residents. Do you think pesticides threaten children's health in your community? Do you think pesticides threaten the environment in your community? And better than 70% said yes. And it all kind of makes sense. Newfoundland and Labrador residents see pesticides as threatening some of the most important things in their lives, their children and the environment. Not surprisingly, the vast majority of them support these bans. So yes, I think that government would do well to listen to the people, and not incidentally, in an election year they're going to be concerned about that, and I think this is something they will find very popular if they go ahead, as we've asked, and pass a ban here in Newfoundland and Labrador. I think it will play very well with the general public. This is perhaps the most shocking piece of all, and it's so obvious I was even hesitant to say it, but I think it is worth saying that every other province in the Maritimes has one of these bans. Come on, isn't it time for Newfoundland and Labrador? We did some work with the Cancer Society in Lung in New Brunswick, and they brought in a ban in effect in 2009. We didn't work in PEI, but we were delighted to see that. We did some work with groups, Cancer Society and others in Nova Scotia. They just passed their ban. It's a good ban. Comes into effect this year and is going to be strengthened next year. It's going to be expanded to include pesticide use on trees, so we're delighted about that. So everywhere else in the Maritimes has these bans, and we think that it really is time that Newfoundland and Labrador children and drinking water and citizens in general have the protection that people have in the other maritime provinces. We think it's a bit of a no-brainer, frankly, that the government should be bringing this legislation this year. So I'll conclude there. If you haven't had a chance to sign the excellent petition, you may want to make a note of the website there, pesticidealternativesnl.wordpress.com. You can go on and just add your name. It is very important in a democracy to weigh in. If you do have the time, please do take a moment also to write to your member of the House of Assembly and urge him or her to support the ban. And thank you from the Canadian Association of Physicians for the Environment. Happy to answer any questions or comments.
And thank you so much, Gideon. That was fantastic. Excellent. So what we'd like to do now, obviously, is open it up to the floor, and then so that way we can all have some discussion about it. So any comments, questions, anything at all. We have a microphone there in the center, and anybody who'd like to make